Why would you want to be with a guy for his money when you could make your own money? Because we're tired.
I think people are jealous and upset.
Oh, wait. Are you being serious?
Yeah.
As much as we're like, oh, being a sugar baby, being a sugar daddy, it's all just disgusting and the girl shouldn't do it. Are you trying to date a break man?
And it's not even necessarily just about having the resources, but actually being a resourceful man. There we go. Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
Now, we are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And sisters, today, you asked, we're delivering, okay?
Dang.
We're going to be talking about sugar daddies, sugar babies, and hypergamy. Okay.
Not hypergamy.
It's a big word.
Okay, hello.
With the rise of relationship content, feminine energy content, and just trying to bag a high value man, we need to talk about the other kinds of high value relationships that women can explore. And with so much controversy surrounding sugar daddies and sugar babies, I wanted us sisters to actually chime in on our thoughts. Understand why people are so against it.
Because I already know where you
it.
The funny thing, I already know where you stand on this one. So,
well, let's get into the dig.
Dilemma.
This one's cool. It's of a different nature.
Okay.
Hey sisters,
Hey.
I'm from Ireland.
Ooh,
I live with my mom
like that?
because that's how Ireland is.
No,
spelled.
you were waiting to say
Ireland
that.
is spelled Ireland. It's not Ireland.
Hi to all our Ireland sisters.
There you go. It's Ireland because Ireland is like the Caribbean islands.
I'm screaming.
You know?
Oh, island babes. Yeah.
Yeah, Ireland. But she's from Ireland.
Oh wow.
UK.
We're giving a lot of visibility to our sisters. Shout out our sisters
Shout
from
out.
Ireland. If
Shout
you're from
out
Ireland, come and let us
There
know.
we go. You're putting too much emphasis on the RE, but it's okay. You're practicing. I live with my mom and will be turning 25 soon. I am clearing debt, and through budgeting, I am allocating any extra income to my loans and soon to build my future. I told my mom, she got excited for me and asked me to take out a loan in my name that she would use to clear all her loans. The loan is enough for a house deposit. I inquired with my bank and I'm eligible. We love a sister with good credit. I want to cut the cycle of debt we've been in our lives. And when I expressed this concern, my mum said she understood, but she can't wait to get a new car on finance. I'm feeling under pressure to apply, but I'm afraid I'll end up paying for this loan. The loan can help. The habits could cripple us. And this is my mum. Please help and thank you.
Oh my goodness, this is more straightforward than I thought.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Don't do it.
Absolutely not. Especially when it sounds brutal, but for me, especially, it's very, very important that if you are building for a future, first of all, congratulations. Sis.
Yeah.
Clearing debt is not easy.
At
I
all.
love the fact that you've really focused on developing really good habits. And this is just a testament to the fact that you've been doing this consistently. So well done to you in this climate, in this economy, to pay off those debts. Pat yourself on the back. You know, that is, you're really like setting pace there and you're really establishing a legacy. Coming back to your dilemma. Because of these new financial habits, because of the fact that you've actually gone to the trouble of educating yourself, and because you are really focused on establishing a new future for your family, it is essential that you do not do this.
Yeah, for real.
Now, I'm not going to say that I'm a financial advisor because I'm not, but it is quite clear to me, clear as day, that if these are the kind of, you know, issues that you have faced in the past, if it's clear that there's been mismanagement in your family history, and even, you know, whether it's your mother, your father, your sibling, I don't care who it is in your family, if they have a history of mismanaged finance or a history of just poor financial literacy, the issue cannot be resolved with further mismanagement. Yeah. We need to go back to the root of the issue. Yeah. Figure things out and change habits. You've cracked it. I think it's less so about supporting financially and more so about supporting the literacy element, right? So if it means sitting down with your mother and talking about, you know, the implications of taking out loans, whether it is, you know, talking about the fact that, you know, you've been able to achieve these things, this is how I've actually achieved it, and doing what you've suggested is actually antithetical to everything that I've actually built, I think that would like go down a lot better than actually just, you know, doing as she fares and, you know, supporting her, you know, financial spending or habits as it is presently. I think this will cripple you in the long run. The fact that you've even identified that the loan that you want to take out is as big as a house deposit, and the fact that loans can quickly become liabilities quickly, especially if you don't know how to pay it off. And I think what makes this difficult is this would be an enabling movement as opposed to something that's supportive. Now, enabling means that you're really not unrooting all of the issues that you're currently dealing with, but further like facilitating that snowball effect of entering into financial debt and mismanagement. The issue is not the access to resources, it's the management of resources. And I urge you quickly to snuff that out, because I am telling you, like our parents' generation, they went through a lot, and they had a completely different set of circumstances, different understanding of money, the economy, etc. So I can understand why, you know, some of our parents, and this is not to enable or to, you know, completely invalidate the fact that people are actually struggling with the debt or the, you know, the choices that their parents made. However, I can understand how certain financial habits or certain financial issues may have crept up in the past. If you're building for the future necessitates difference. And I think you should be bold, and I think you should be unflinching about the way that you manage your money. I think that money is one of those delicate issues, and it's something that I love talking about because we don't talk about it enough insofar as financial management, financial planning, budgeting, all that kind of stuff, because money can cause so many issues, not just in relationships, but also in family dynamics, in friendship dynamics. Being upfront, transparent, and very, very intentional about the way that you deploy money is so, so important. And I think, sis, you're literally on the brink of cracking it, but this might take you like 10 steps backward after you've made so many excellent strides forward. So my initial advice is absolutely not. Don't take out the loan. Sit down with your mother. It may be a series of conversations. It may be something where you actually facilitate I don't know how many members of your family you may have, but if, you know, you have other siblings, for example, and older siblings, or I'm not sure what your situation is with your other parent, if your father is around, irrespective of the dynamic, you guys need to sit down and actually talk about what is the plan financially for all of us as a family, but also individually. And also maybe take the time to really question, you know, what are liabilities? What will be assets? Even thinking about buying a car on finance, for example. Yeah, cars are great. It takes you from A to B, but is it necessary? Is it a necessary spend? Having those conversations with your, you know, your mother, having those conversations within a family dynamic is what will help you get the ball rolling around that whole idea and the practical manifestation of generational wealth, right? And really getting out of debt. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think that that's excellent advice. And I've seen in the past how taking loans or taking things out on credit for somebody else can really, really damage your financial future. And I think one thing we have to all be, you know, very understanding of is the fact that when you operate in a country or in a nation where their economy is highly predicated on credit, you don't want to mess with your credit. With your credit score, with your credit history, with your credit behavior and patterns, and you're already clearing off your debt, which is, you know, establishing a great credit history and a great credit pattern. However, if you go and take out this loan and you're not even certain as to whether it will be paid back by you or the person who's asking you to take it out, there's clearly not a repayment plan that's secure enough for you to put your name on this. And that's the thing with credit, it's you're putting your name, your credibility literally on the line. And a lot of us can fall into holes that come, you know, or we can end up getting bitten in the future and not now. When you're trying to buy a house, when you're trying to get a car, if you're trying to get a loan to, you know, build up a business or something which is more of an asset loan, than it is, you know, a crippling liability, because loans aren't necessarily bad if you have a plan for it. And it seems like your uncertainty shows that you don't necessarily have a plan for it, and the last thing you need is another expense which you're not even reaping the fruit of, especially if you end up being the one who pays back this loan. And it sounds like it's for an incredible amount, but also interest rates, you don't know what the future holds right now. We're in an economic recession. You don't know what your financial situation is going to be in the future. And like Renee mentioned, if you are at a point where you're blessed enough to be able to be paying off debt, because that's an amazing, like that's the first thing you need to be able to do in order to build wealth. The second thing is having a good credit score. And if you're doing something that will jeopardize that or put another expense on you, which even inhibits you from maybe paying back your own debts or even saving for the future, it is not worth it. I get it. It's your mom, but because it's your mom, you just have to have a conversation with her that says that, you know, this isn't going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to do it. It doesn't fit with my plans either. And like Renee said, I'll happily be able to sit down and kind of help you figure out how you're going to pay back your debt. But I don't think the answer is going into more debt, because it's not. Yeah, that's what I would say. And I love that you mentioned having, you know, just financial transparency in your family. But even if you can't, definitely surround yourself with people who are free to talk about money, who talk about building wealth, maybe exposing yourself to people in real life or even online who just help you to stay in that mindset and that reassurance of, okay, I know my parents are saying this, or my family is saying this, or we have this history of poor financial management. However, I have surrounded myself with people who will keep my mindset in the right place. So even if I'm not hearing it and it hasn't been passed down to me generationally, I have the privilege of creating an environment around me, even if it is just digital, of people reminding me what is actually important and what I want to prioritize for my future, which in your case is financial security and being not necessarily debt free, but handling debt a bit better, which you've already started to do. So keep yourself in the loop of just reminders. And that's why, you know, we really love having conversations about money here on the podcast. We've had it in the past. I have it on my channel. Renee talks about it on LinkedIn. It's very much like, money is important. Us as women, we need to have money, but more importantly, we need to have money, financial education. We need to understand money. We need to know how to make it, how to keep it, how to grow it, right? One of the biggest threats a lot of the time to women having money and women having wealth is other people dragging them down, right? And relying on their relationships with us or our lack of knowledge to kind of exploit us or to get us to do things which we do not fully understand the ramifications of. And I want you to understand that you taking out a loan for somebody else in your name has serious ramifications for your financial future. Honest to God, it is not worth it. Like, let me just be very, very honest with you. It is not worth it. So yeah. Your mum will get over it. She has to.
She must.
She has to.
She actually must.
She actually has to. So, sis, we're sorry that you're in this situation, but also we're very happy that you're in this situation where we can advise you to stand firm, all right, in your financial priorities.
Absolutely.
And build for your future. And we can't wait to have you on the podcast maybe one day talking about wealth and debt cancellation and all of that, okay? Got you. So we hope that got you. We hope that answer was helpful. Sisters, you already know the deal. Head to the comments here on YouTube if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can stream podcasts, and come to the To My Sisterhood page and give sis your 2 pence. Leave your advice down below. Maybe you have some past experience of, you know, taking out a loan for somebody or, you know, having to loan somebody money and how that went. That was serious. Maybe you can share your experience. Maybe you can just share your wisdom, especially the older sisters as well. We want to hear from y'all. And actually, let us know in the comments if you do want some episodes on money, because we haven't done one specific in a long time, in a while, but they're there. Don't worry, season 1, go check it out. But yeah, we haven't done one in a while, so let us know if you actually want one. But let's get into the main conversation. Sugar baby, sugar daddies,
I mean, we kind of talking about money in this one, ain't we? I see what you did there.
Okay, I didn't even see it myself, but we thank God for hindsight, baby. Isn't Renee's hair looking fabulous? It's just looking beautiful and puffy, and it's giving Powerpuff Girl.
It's giving I took out my cornrows and
didn't have time to do something else. But no, it looks so lovely. It looks so lovely. Glowing and growing. Indeed.
I feel like I look 5.
Why? Who doesn't want a youthful
puff
glow?
And the glasses. Like, it's really giving 12-year-old brainchild.
We love to see it. We love to see it. Well, talk about babies. Sugar babies.
I am sick of you. I'm actually sick of you because that was a great segue.
Thank you.
That was great.
They call it a talent.
It's great.
So why do you think, let's just get into that nitty gritty.
Let's go.
Why do you think people have so much of a big issue and it becomes such a big discussion when we are talking about being a sugar baby or having a sugar daddy as a woman.
I think people are jealous and upset.
Oh, wait, are you being serious?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that from you.
Wait. That's like the small percentage.
Okay.
But I thought, let me be controversial and start with the... Okay,
Not
so
the
I think...
soundbite.
Yeah, the soundbite. People are going to be like, jealous? I'm not jealous of these hoes out here. But even that is a problem, right? Insofar as the image of the sugar baby.
Yeah.
So I think that there's different camps of people when it comes to sugar babies, right? There's those folks who don't necessarily agree with this whole sugar baby dynamic because they don't believe that anyone should be in a relationship that is so transactional, right? And I think some people liken this whole idea of being a sugar baby to a form of like sex work or a form of like prostitution or a form of just like, which is not to say that these are professions to be denigrated or anything, but I think there's that element of like, again, the transactional nature of the relationship, and it makes some people feel uncomfortable. And it, especially when it comes to this whole idea of giving sugar, right? The sugar, and this sugar with a SUGA, not sugar with a, do you know what I mean? It's the whole, give me some, And I think there's other elements or other narratives around being a sugar baby that make people feel further uncomfortable, right? When we think of sugar babies, we think of typically an older man that's like well established and a younger female who, is trying to up and coming, all that kind of stuff, and is very pretty. And I think that sometimes the narratives around sugar babies or our perceptions around sugar babies really supports, patriarchal ideals. It really supports this idea that women are essentially able to capitalize off of certain aesthetics, right? The girls that are curvaceous, or the girls that are, petite and pretty, or the girls that are traditionally seen as like beautiful are able to make money from their beauty as well as their participation in whatever level of intimacy they decide with a man that's willing to pay for it. And I think people are not willing to overcome that or overlook that. So you do have the camp of people, perhaps a small percentage of people that actually are jealous because it's kind of like, I'm out here working for a living, right, and Miss Thing is out here shaking ass, right, and all of that kind of stuff, and is able to make a living off of her beauty. And I think it's important to recognize that this is actually not for everybody, right? This whole being a sugar baby is actually easier for some people versus others, and it really does hearken to the whole idea of pretty privilege, right? And we've had discussions about pretty privilege before. Please do check out the episode on it. So there's that element of not even necessarily just jealousy, but for others it's like, oh, this is something I actually can't participate in because I don't actively, like, I'm not within that camp of folks that would be a part of the sugar baby aesthetic or part of the sugar baby community. But I would say, sis, there's some fellas out here. There's some fellas, and that's just the narrative and the perception of sugar
I think
babies.
The narrative that surrounds sugar babies is like the very childlike. People want a very childlike girl that they can, manipulate
and stuff like that.
Exactly, and use their money to control.
Not a shame.
No, but it is a shame.
I know exactly,
that fetishization is another conversation in itself. But I think that's more so the overwhelming narrative that surrounds being a sugar baby. But I have seen and know of some women who not even given sugar, right, but just getting those, I guess you could say, living the sugar baby lifestyle, but they don't fit into the mainstream kind of, because they have men who they want them,
right?
Also, I think this idea of like sugar, like it's like, well, some people, they're not getting paid to, shake their ass,
right?
It's companionship. It's just presence. It's having, phone conversations. It's be on my arm, be a trophy. And I think the question for me sometimes with, sugar babies, what a taboo, it's kind of like, to a degree though, isn't that what a lot of relationships are kind of like?
Therein lies the issue. Now, would I be a sugar baby? That's a separate discussion. In this economy, many of us, do you know what I mean? In this economy, there's a lot of things that you need to think about as a profession. However, I think as long as there is, and this is something we touched on in our last episode, right? As long as there is integrity and transparency, then, not to say that I agree with being a sugar baby, like it's not something I would choose. What are your reservations? It's not something I would choose for myself, purely because I think first of all, being a sugar baby versus hypergamy. Sugar baby is, we have a transactional relationship where I provide you with whatever I identify as sugar and you give me monetary, like, what do you call it? You give me capital in return. For me, I actually want to be in a relationship with someone. So that like foundation is not going to be helpful for what I want, where I actually want to be partners with you. Do you know what I mean? Whereas sugar baby is very much more transactional. There's folks that fall in love with their sugar fathers. Is that what we call them?
Sugar daddies.
They're sugar daddies. There we go. Not the sugar fathers. It's really, that's definitely giving daddy issues. Sugar. Here's my patriarchal sugar father. But for me, because I desire something else, that's the reason I wouldn't go for being a sugar baby. But if that's what you desire and you want to be, if that's something you want to pursue, I would say the most important thing is that you are integral about it and you're clear about your expectations. I think where this whole idea of like being a sugar baby becomes uncomfortable for some people is this whole idea of intimacy as transactional. But B, this whole preconceived notion that there is deception involved. I think those are the two prevalent issues when it comes to talking about sugar baby culture. Because when we're talking about the first, which is being sex being transactional or intimacy being transactional, as you mentioned, there's so many shades of gray when it comes to intimacy, and it plays into the second point about being clear about what your expectations are. When I think of, some of the worrying stories of the Dubai sugar babies, some of you guys, the prices are steep, the cost is high. What you're doing out there, I don't think I can do that one. But I wish you well on those journeys. I pray for you every single day, and I hope that the therapy that you have been invested in post your experience. Anyway, sure. But yeah, that kind of example for it is costly, right? And this whole notion of what limits do you have when it comes to being a sugar baby is something that needs to be discussed. And for those that are not willing to go to the extremes, that's your business. For those of you that are going to the extremes, do I agree with it?
Absolutely
Actually, no.
That one, there's no gray area on that. Come back home. Come back home.
Actually, no, because I think that it can put you in a very dangerous position. I think that there is the dark side of, we're going to call them the sugar fathers on this side, because they are the fathers of the sugar. There's the dark side of that where we can't pretend that being a sugar baby operates in a vacuum. It's obviously under patriarchy, but there is something very insidious about particularly men as perpetrators when they acquire great wealth and resources, and they use that as an excuse to abuse their position when it comes to the acquisition of sugar, intimacy, sex, and some really depraved behavior occurs because, the acquisition of that power from the capital makes them lose sight of themselves and lose sight of the law, because some of the things they've been doing is illegal.
And the humanity of the person. The humanity,
precisely. I think there's that element of like, when you enter into those transactional relationships, sometimes it can be very, very dangerous, A, as a woman, but B, because we lose sight of the fact that the person you're engaging with all of these activities in is a human being. Like how many times, and I'm not saying that, the sugar fathers of the dark side are serial killers. But as somebody that is an avid watcher of Criminal Minds, and somebody that is an avid watcher of, various other crime oriented bits and pieces, call me a behavioral, a psychologist, if you will.
Behavioral analyst.
There is something very malicious about the way that some people, not necessarily just men, although men tend to be the perpetrators in the narratives that we depict, there is something very malicious about the way that men who acquire great wealth wield that wealth in relation to getting sexual favors or getting some kind of intimacy. So I think that's like number one. And then number two, insofar as like, dealing with that transactional element. Many of us like to think that we can deal with transactional relationships. I don't think that's the case. At least
I think it is,
I don't think so.
I think it
on
is.
both sides.
No, I really think it is.
Unless you are very explicit about the terms and conditions and you're willing to stick to them, I think it can work.
But that's why this is why I think sugar babyism.
not sugar
babyism. When we call it what it is, that's why I think it can be very powerful, because you understand that.
That
like
fair,
I actually am, this is not a relationship. This ain't my boyfriend.
You
know what I mean? This is my sugar daddy. Do you get what I mean? Or this is my sponsor, or this is my whatever. Sponsor. And I think that there then becomes that understanding of, I ain't really trying to catch feelings here. You shouldn't either. You know, and I think that's where you come with the whole, like, and we were talking about it last week in response to the dilemma, but like the integrity and the clear communication and what you were saying about, you know, us being transparent. We know what is being transacted here, right? Whether it's company, whether it's sex, we actually lay out those boundaries. And I think when you give things titles rather than letting them, you know, exist in the gray area, you actually get to have these conversations of, are we actually on the same page here? And if you then push me past what we've discussed or push me past my boundary, we're going to have some talks, because it's not what we agreed on. There is no gray here.
Not the sugar free, and then all of a sudden, hey, honey.
It's giving diabetes. But I love that you mentioned that there are some, when people are thinking about the sugar baby, sugar daddy issue, it's not just about, you know, the dynamic of being with somebody, because the association is they're going to be much older than you, or they're going to, you know, basically manipulate you or lord their money over you. I think also some people, you know, call into question the integrity of the women, because it's like, is this man married? Does he have a family? And then I think that there's, as a sisterhood, we've always said this, you do not touch things which are not yours, and we cannot endorse things like infidelity or being a mistress or something like that. But I do think as ideal and utopian, at the core essence of just having somebody who you're primarily with because of their money, I think some people have an issue with that, because it's like you're objectifying that person. But it's like, if you could fall in love with that person, or you could just get on with that person, what is the issue with just being led by the fact that they have the resources that you want, right? And you can get on with them as a person. I think there's a lot more complexity to being a sugar baby or being in that kind of dynamic than people actually afford, because it's kind of like, oh, you're just with him because of his money, or you're just with her because of her good looks. And it's like, yeah, it pretty much started that way. But since, you know, if that dynamic works for us, similarly, would I be in that kind of thing? Probably not, because I don't think it aligns with my goals when it comes to my romantic endeavors. However, I think a lot more women and a lot more people are led by those things. I think it's just sugar babies and sugar daddies who have the capital and just the pure guts to be like, I can say it, at least I can admit it, you know, that I'm most attracted to a man's money, or I'm most attracted to a woman's looks. And this kind of brings me to the conversation about hypergamy. Yeah. Because as much as we're like, oh, being a sugar baby, being a sugar daddy, it's all just disgusting and the girl shouldn't do it. Are you trying to date a break man?
Oh, child. So, no.
Exactly.
You know.
And you know why this was spurred on to me? Because somebody was saying, and I think this is another issue with the whole sugar baby conversation, and one of the underlying topics, which is whether we assume that those girls have financial independence. Because somebody commented, especially in response to last week's dilemma, go and check it out if you haven't seen last week's episode, was, you know, why would you want to be with a guy for his money when you could make your own money? Because we're tired. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, but let's be very, very honest. It is easier to spend somebody else's money and use that to make your own, or to have it in addition to your own. I think we live in these very, like you always say, you know, we always go to these extremes. If you're, you know, you have somebody and they're sponsoring you, or they're giving you money, the assumption is you don't make your own money. They probably do make their own money. It's just good to have someone else's money in addition. Do you get what I mean? I do think there is a conversation to be had about financial independence, while still being with somebody who can financially support you, financially catapult you, or who you can simply be equals with or partner with when it comes to finance.
And that's okay.
Exactly. And I want more of that for us women, actually, because I think for too long, that sugar baby, let's reclaim it, guys. That whole... No, I'm joking. I am not one. I can't fight that fight with the girls, but I'm going to be at the back of that process. I'm telling you. I'll be at the back of that process.
I think it's underpinning all of the arguments that we often make or opinions that we have on To My Sisters is there's a layer of nuance, which is also underpinned by here. you can choose to do whatever the heck you want to do. Just to reiterate,
I
think sometimes people come on these kind of platforms and they're like, you should do this, you should do, this is the bottom line. Look, we live in a society that hopefully facilitates free will. Obviously, it's not the case for everybody, but we believe in free will. Yeah. We believe that you have the agency to choose to do as you please. We have opinions as to what we think is optimum. For your growth, welfare, happiness, and all the things that we say in the intro. Yeah. But whether you decide to do it different is up to you. Yeah, 100%. So don't come into these comments. How dare you have that opinion? Don't come here.
I'm screaming.
Take your load to another podcast.
I'm screaming.
Here we call that nuance.
But that's the thing. Like, I think the term sugar baby or gold digger has definitely been like weaponized against women, and 100%. It's been used so much to the point where I don't know if enough women are comfortable saying, I'm actually looking for someone who can financially match me or financially provide, or who I can see a good financial future with.
Exactly. And it's not even necessarily just about having the resources, but actually being a resourceful man. We go. Like, I think sometimes when we have these conversations, they are exactly that, black and white. I'm looking for, people assume that women are just looking for partners that can provide for them in the sense of they've got X amount of money in the bank. Actually, no, we're looking for someone that's resourceful. So it might even be the guy that's like up and coming, and he doesn't necessarily have a lot of disposable income, but he has excellent money habits. Facts. And he's really building towards a legacy and a future. I think the picture is always more complex than it's presented as. So even when we think about like gold diggers, like, I'm not just looking for gold, man. I'm looking for the person that's able to find the sources of gold. Do you know what I mean? Because having money is I don't want to say stagnant. It's a particular like point in time. Being somebody that's able to amass wealth is different. And I think when we're thinking about when I'm thinking about hypergamy, it's not even necessarily, I want somebody that's got a higher, net worth than me, or like I'm looking for somebody that has money, but I'm looking for a good steward. So I think women, especially if you are a woman that, obviously we're being very like heteronormative here, but if you are a woman that is looking for a man to be a provider, or if you are bought into that idea of the 2-parent household or the partnership, right, then it would make sense. It's reasonable to want to find a man that's resourceful. Yeah. And I think sometimes because we've gone to such extremes of, I want to be independent, financially independent. I don't want, I'm not the kind of person that's just dependent on a man for anything, etc. We forget that there's actually so much power in collaboration and partnership, especially romantically, and actually aspiring to be with somebody that may be a little bit further along or somebody that is a little bit better than that is actually not a bad thing, because it means that both of you can actually win together. And I think, again, the narratives and the conversations we often have online where it's like, man versus woman, she's just looking for my money. No. It's unfortunate because there's so much that can be built when two come together as one. Like, obviously, already, we Christians out here, loving all that kind Jesus. Of stuff.
Don't let the past conversation fool you. Love the Lord, sugar-free babes.
But just even in recent conversations around like marriage and relationships and stuff like that, there's a particular kind of favor that comes when two become one. Facts. And I believe that's not just a favor in terms of the spiritual stuff that you care intangible, but in terms of tangible resources, two skills coming together as one. If one person is more of more skilled when it comes to financial literacy, coming together as two, double. There's so much power.
Said it. There's
so much power.
And that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't even tiptoe around it as much as it's not like wrong to want a man with money, girl. I'm not going to cushion that. It is wise and it is wise and it is necessary. No, because I'm so sick of people using that whole like, she's a gold digger, or like women shouldn't be looking for, a guy who has financial literacy or financial stability or can even provide for himself or a future, right? Because they end up making bad decisions, or they end up getting with men who become financial liabilities on them. And I really don't want that for the sisters.
Absolutely.
Do you get what I mean? If we're going to be people who build healthy homes, build healthy relationships, healthy marriages, and build wealth for the future, we need to become comfortable being clear on our financial goals, strengthening our financial capabilities, and getting financial wisdom and financial knowledge, which also includes being able to discern and be honest with ourselves about whether we are taking on financial liabilities in the form of a person. right? All of us consider the financial liabilities of having a child, and we prepare ourselves to make that investment. We prepare ourselves for that season in our lives. We also need to prepare our minds and our actual finances for the financial responsibilities and commitments, but also opportunities that come with being in a romantic relationship with somebody. And on paper, as well as, you know, just through relationship, combining your finances, your financial history, and your financial future with theirs. And I think as women, as, you know, glowing and growing, grown women, we need to be honest with ourselves and with our partners about the fact that, hey, if we're going to build a life together, that life is built with money, as well as, you know, spiritual maturity, wisdom, all of that. We also need money. There's a reason why money is one of the leading causes of divorce. A lot of us, if we want to have good marriages and good homes and really want to make the most of, you know, the favor that you said that comes with uniting yourself with somebody else to catapult your future, we need to be honest with ourselves about finances. And it's not enough for us to just tell ourselves, oh, the money will come, or, oh, you know, he's got some potential. Okay, but what are we doing to work that out? But also, what are we doing ourselves to prepare for that, right? And a lot of people think, you know, when women start talking about hypergamy, that they are taking the responsibility, the financial responsibility of building a future off of themselves. That's not true. I think, and this community will always be one that encourages it, but I think a lot of women are doing the work to be high earners, or, you know, existing and surviving in this economic climate. They're doing the work, as the dilemma suggested, like they're doing the work to be debt free and to start, you know, their own financial journeys. And if you want to partner with somebody, I think you shouldn't partner with somebody who's going to bring you down. And I think a lot of women, because they have been afraid to talk about money, or because they have been discouraged from dating men who can actually provide, or who could be smart with their money, they end up attaching themselves to people who are going to stifle their future. Let me just be honest, because how many of us, because how many of us have seen couples, seen parents, seen aunties and uncles who it's like one person just doesn't want to work, or they work and they don't bring their finances to the table. Do you get what I mean? And it's like, actually, if you were with somebody who was honest and also well versed about finances, and also had an understanding and a revelation of what your combined income could do and could be, that would make life so much easier for you and your holistic health, right? Like, you wouldn't be working as hard, or even if you were, you would know it was both of you doing that for that season, right? But you wouldn't be carrying your whole family on your back and it killing you.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
Let me just be honest.
And also, I think that to add, I guess, further nuance to this conversation, because there are some sisters who are seeking men as meal tickets. Oh, 100%. So we gonna address y'all real quick, because some of you guys are thinking, oh yeah, I want, you know, my Prince Charming to come and like sweep me off my feet and, you know, take care of all of my issues and stuff like that. That again places you in a dangerous position. I think there's always balance to be had in these conversations, right? But don't think that seeking entirely just for a man that has assets will absolve you of the responsibility around actually having good financial literacy. Yeah. Don't think, because that's how manipulation starts to creep in, and that's how being taken for a fool and for a mug starts to creep into these kind of relationships. Facts. Because it's not necessarily about putting your whole livelihood into the hands of the man. And I think that's what a lot of folks have kind of been scared of, rebelling against. It's the whole, I don't want my future to be in the hands of this guy because he thinks that he's got all the resources. It's possible to find a middle ground. It's possible to be somebody that is earning your own money, that is relatively independent, and then can be interdependent with a guy that's also got his own. I know that it sounds almost utopian now because we've lived at the extremes for so long, but real life will show you often that there's happiness to be had in the middle. 100%. There's happiness to be had in the middle. And then equally for the guys out there that think that they are entitled to anything and everything because they have money, fella, that's not how life works. And I'm not sure that's the kind of woman I would advise you to go for if the only thing that she is interested in is your money. Okay, if it's the only thing, like, and literally just your acquisition of money and not necessarily your resourcing or your stewardship, right? Like, sometimes in trying to identify green flags in other people, we actually exhibit red flags in ourselves. And I think sometimes when we're trying to identify this man has money, we forget actually to that person, are we exhibiting that we're a red flag? Because I know we have that conversation around online around like, what do you bring to the table? I'm bringing the money. What do you bring to the table? And it's like, man, I need us to just remove the table from the living room. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, when something is around too much, is we've talked about this, just remove it. Let's have a conversation here. You want to be careful though, because you don't actually want to be in a position where it's like you're demanding XYZ. Obviously we want you to actually demand more because you actually deserve it. But equally,
make sure you do.
Equally, pair those desires with the acquisitions of the toolkit that will set you up.
Exactly. And I think that's why the conversation about, okay, what do you bring to the table actually matters. Now I get it. It's been perverted because for a lot of people, it's like, well, what do you bring to the table? And they use it as a knock at your self-worth and your value as a human being.
Exactly.
I don't think that's you, a random person on the internet asking me, what do I bring to the table? I'm not trying to marry you. There is no table between us.
That's the thing.
There is actually no table between us. But I think sitting down with somebody who you actually see, okay, this could go somewhere, right? And having a level of transparency, but also a key word here when it comes to money, when it comes to relationships, even being a sugar baby or having a sugar daddy, is trust. Actually building financial trust with each other is necessary. And that comes through conversations, and that comes through laying your cards out on the table. And I think a lot of us haven't seen functional and healthy relationships where that has been done well, but it doesn't mean we cannot build that. I do think it's important to sit down with a potential life partner, or even a friend who you want to do business with, or someone that you want to live with, or your parents who you're trying to make, serious money moves with. Sit down and actually say, this is what I'm bringing to the table. Do our pieces actually fit? Because if you don't have that conversation about, well, what are you bringing to the table, you'll end up bringing the whole table and putting everything on it, and then realizing this person doesn't have anything to match. That can breed a whole bunch of resentment. Or if I whip out a whole bunch of tools, but we don't even have the necessary things to put together, there's no point, right? So it's a great place for us to even identify, do you have skills or talent or income that complements mine? Do we have a future plan that even complements each other? And what are we both missing that we need to go and acquire in order for our future to actually last and be built? And if you're not comfortable having conversations around money and also demanding more, but preparing yourself for the more that you want, you have no right. That it's not going to work out well. And I want more of us to be confident in having, I want more of us to be confident to make more money, or to make the money that we desire to have. But I also want us to look for financial security, not necessarily in a partner, but with a partner.
Right.
Yeah. And I do think I back what you say in the sense that, like, some people, their hesitation or their reservation is this person only with me for my money? And I don't think that's the case, but I do think money helps. If I'm going to be honest. And
it does, man.
It's one of those ones where, let's just be real, we're living in a cost of living crisis thing. Life is getting worse and worse. Nice. And that doesn't necessarily mean, and I think this is why the internet becomes such a crap place to have these kind of conversations, because people then put a benchmark on it, right? If he's not earning this amount, or he can't do X, Y, Z, if he can't take you to here, then he's not earning enough. No, it comes down to the life you want to build, right? And it comes to where's your starting point, and what do you envision for your future? And the thing about the original term hypergamy is it mainly refers to education and skill set rather than actual capital and paycheck and income and the specifics of what you make. And I think that's such an important thing to draw from, because education is often a symbol of the future open doors you could have, right? And not just necessarily your present position. And I think it's important for us to be women of vision. That's what this whole year has been about. If we're going to be women of vision, if we're going to be people who build with the future in mind and have a vision for the future, we need to make wise choices. And I don't care what social narratives say. I think it's important for us as women to have some kind of financial security, which we not only provide for ourselves, but we partner with somebody else to have.
Right, exactly.
And I don't think we should be shamed for that at all. And I don't think we should feel uncomfortable with that either, because it's necessary. Like, what's the alternative?
I get it, man. I get the whole, like, even with the benchmarking, right, it's not to excuse the fact that sometimes the way that folks be speaking on the internet is always out of line.
Rugged.
Like, do you guys have any accountability? Because I know there's some people that would slap me upside my head if I was out here speaking that kind of rubbish on the internet. But I get it insofar it being a response to the fact that for women, the benchmark has often been around aesthetics. So I get it insofar as, okay, cool. It's more sometimes these kind of like emotionally driven outbursts that can be very much on the extreme side is in rebuttal to another extreme. But I would implore and urge you to consider that is not going to be helpful because nobody is going to get what they want.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think a lot of us are like, am I actually going to say this? Ooh. Okay, sisters. I'm saying this because I love us and I love the internet and I love you.
You know what it's making me think of? You know when Monique ages ago
with the bonnets. Babies, I need us to talk about them bonnets.
I want to talk to you real quick.
That's not what I'm going to say. The reason why I wanted to say this is, okay, and we said it before, don't let the internet bamboozle you out of your blessing. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to functional and healthy relationships, a lot of people are saying things because of what they've seen on TV,
right?
Any pain and trauma that they've experienced. A lot of people are talking out of their pain, or they're talking extremes that they wouldn't necessarily live. And the reason why I say this is when people are like, oh, if he doesn't earn this, if he doesn't earn that, how many people actually live that life and are saying this? Do you get where I'm coming from? Do you get where I'm coming from?
You know what it makes me think of? Sorry guys, I actually think in memes. It makes me think of, do you remember that picture of that guy that's like lying down and he's like on the phone and his room is just a messy. I want a babes that does XYZ and he's just there living in depravity.
But I'm also talking about women.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like it's
one
like
for the women.
Women who are like, I would never be with a guy who XYZ, or I would never be with a guy who earns any less than this. And it's like, okay, but how about you also talk about what it means to be a woman who can prepare yourself for the man that you actually want, but also how far along have you come on actually getting that man, right?
And also, have you gone outside to go and find the man? Because
that's what I mean.
And I think
a lot of people are talking in hypothetics, like it's very much your hypothetic idealized way of looking, but life doesn't work that way, right? Not everyone's on the 6-figure salary at 25.
If you were to, and that's,
do you get what I mean?
Thing.
And it's like you've got people on the internet who are living, maybe even they are dating the guys, but they live in the extremes. They're IG models, they're, they started, in high earning industries from early. You guys can talk about that stuff because that's your network. But for the majority of people actually consuming that content, that is not their real life. That is not their experience. And that is not their dating pool. And then they develop those same expectations of relationships, of men, of people. And then they become disappointed as to why they've said no to everybody who was realistic for them and could have helped them build a future.
Right.
But now that it's been 10 years and that guy never came because you were never around those people, and now you're single. And now you're really going to have to settle because you're desperate.
Hello.
But that happens often, and I'm not telling women to settle. I have a whole video on my channel that got me in trouble about settling. But I do think there are practicalities that go into dating, and the internet. The internet is creating a lot of unrealistic expectations. And it's like, girl, don't let the internet fool you. Do what works for you.
And
find out what will actually work for you.
I love that you said that because if we were to look at the average salaries of most people in the United Kingdom, United States, South Africa, France, Belgium, all these places, you would find that the average is a lot lower than 6 figures. And this is not to say that, sis, you're not, deserving of these things and a wonderful guy and stuff like that. But it is worth reconceptualizing this idea of finding the finished person that is perfect for you. And this is not to say, ride out on potential and stuff like that, but there is something more important that you should be looking for, which is character and skills.
There we go.
Yeah, they might start, like most people that are like under the age of 25, are they making six figures? Absolutely not. Do they have potential though? There's quite a few of them.
There we go.
Even thinking about men, and not us actually standing on the side of men. Yo, bros, I know you guys are listening. They're getting to us. Yeah, support the brothers. So that's how the lads in the UK be talking. Yeah, let's go on, my son. But yeah, there's something to be said around the fact that when you're committing to a relationship, you're not committing to a static figure. You're committing to someone that will evolve and change. And this is not to say, you know, find the brokey and ride out with him. This is saying that understand that there will be a level of demonstration of who a person is at their core, and that should be enough to help you determine, is this person going to be when they evolve in the future, is this what I want to stick around with at their core? And I think that because there's so much extremities persisting on the internet, we think this extremity is very much a mirror of my real life, which is not true. And you get into the position that Courtney just described, where it's like you're saying no to, you're giving no chances to absolutely anybody. And then you get into a position where it's like, actually, not only have I not given a chance to anybody, there's no one around when I believe that I'm ready.
Right.
And it's like a lot of the folks, now this is, again, not to fuel the mandem out there that are building, and you know, they have this like pipe dream where it's like, the babe that rejected me when I was
I'm gonna go back and show her.
I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna come back, she's gonna be like crying and all that.
Go home. Just find your babes and move on.
First of all, my dear brother, there's many babes out there that, you know, are upstanding members of the, you know, women community. But it is worth being realistic. You can be aspirational and realistic. Again, there is happiness to be found in the middle. It's actually okay. And as we said earlier, there is favor that comes through partnership. And sometimes we often think of like relationships as just very static things. And also, sorry, I'm all over the place, but the other point that came to mind as you were speaking is the fact that somebody that is six figure today might be five figures tomorrow. You don't know. They can have the best financial management. And this is why when we think about things like marriage as an institution, and we think of the vows of in sickness, in health,
richer for poorer.
Precisely, for richer, for poorer, your life will not always, just because somebody has a particular set of assets now, doesn't mean they will always have access to those assets forever. It doesn't, unless even the richest of the rich, they have had their, you know, richest to rag story, right? We have seen people go bankrupt in the blink of an eye. When those kind of challenges come, I don't want somebody that has been making six figures and doesn't know how to, again, build back up to that versus the person that's like, I've got six figures now, but it's like when there's actually some kind of catastrophe to come, he doesn't know how to manage it, and neither do I. So I think it's really, really important to not just think of like partnership as this vision, this stagnant vision. This is an ever evolving, ever moving set of like conditions and circumstances that you'll be in. And this is why character is always so much more important than somebody's paycheck. Even thinking about paycheck, he's a six-figure guy, but what's he making six figures from, sis? He could be a drug dealer. He could be, you know, money laundering. He could be doing all sorts of activities and he could be a terrible human being. And of course we have this ideal, but I want a six-figure guy that's kind, that's gentle, that's this, that's that. I want a six-figure guy that's da-da-da-da. Girl. Not girl. And another point that came into my mind is, again, thinking back to the man them out here that are, you know, making a lot of money and stuff like that, and they use it as a means of entitlement to women. There's a lot of folks out here that will blind you via love bombing because they make so much money. Be careful.
We've done a whole episode on this. You actually need to go and listen to it, because that will land you in trouble.
Hello?
Big boy trouble if you're not careful. And yes, it's always saying is that, like, from a sister to a sister, right? Let's just be very honest about, we've had the fun conversation about sugar babies. We've talked about the hypergamy. We've done that. But literally, to my sisters, right? When it comes to what we desire, or what I desire for you, it's, I want you to be in a relationship which offers you stability, peace, and unity, right?
Yes, hallelujah. That felt like a prayer to the nations.
As people, we have had so many images of relationships thrown to us, and we can decide to live in the extremes, and there will be people on the peripheries who decide to have different unconventional relationships. But for the I guess a large number of women or people who are listening to us who want stable, healthy, committed, functional relationships and families, my advice would be build with that in mind, right? Equip yourself with the skills, the knowledge, and the character to actually build that life that you want, but partner yourself with somebody who will not kill that inside of you, right? Whether it's people who do not have financial literacy, people who are coming with criminal records, a credit score of negative 35, and no, okay, and no desire to work. Because I cannot sit up here and be like, women, let's go do it for ourselves, independence, and not give you the same advice that I would want to hear, that I would give my sister, that I would give Renee. It's not fair. Okay? It's not fair.
You know, he's giving a Big Brother's confessional.
It's not fair. No, genuinely, I want that for us. I want us to know that we can have a happy home, a functional home, and a home that can provide for us and our children, right? And it's not idealistic. It's not this over romanticized pipeline dream. It may have some challenges, and it may require you to build and overcome some obstacles along the way. My desire for you would be to find somebody who is worth, or who is able to go over those obstacles with you, and who you are not dragging over those obstacles, and who you are not forcing to get to this goal with you. I want you to have a helper. I want you to have somebody who you can actually do life with, feel safe with, and who can actually share the load with you as you do these exploits. And I think a lot of us have lost hope in the idea that we could even have that with all these conversations that have happened online about, high value men, high value women. It feels like relationships have just become so complex when at their essence, it's not. It's about friendship, and it's about building for the future. So keep your eyes on the prize, okay? Get yourself equipped with financial education, make your own money so that you can be independent, but find somebody who you can, like Renee said, be codependent with, and who can actually bring something to the table.
Yeah. And it's just nice, like
it is.
It doesn't even have to be transactional. I think even that element of like, we've forgotten how to give or receive gifts from people without seeing that from a transactional front,
It doesn't have to be like that.
Okay, you're with somebody that's got money, they get you something. It doesn't have to be transactional too, It can just actually be, that was nice, thank you.
And actually, I think that's why a lot of us struggle to get our head around this sugar babyism, because it's like, how can you be receiving gifts without sugar? Because some men are rich and they just want to give gifts. And some people are like, no, you don't know what's going behind the scenes. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Sisters, there are different dynamics out there. And I want us to, exactly. And I just want us to understand, like, listen, as much as I'm joking with this whole sugar baby thing, if my sister came to me and was like, I'm a sugar baby, we're going to have to sit down and really unpack what that means.
What's the terms and
so
conditions?
I'm not advertising it. I just think it's an interesting conversation when it comes to women. However, I do think we need to start being more comfortable to have financial expectations of ourselves and of our partners, and to receive gifts and to love that.
Absolutely.
Right. How about that?
That was wholesome, man.
I hope it was, but I'm sure you guys will light it up in the comments. Okay, so if you are listening to us here on YouTube, go to the comment section and drop it like it's hot. Okay, let us know your thoughts, let us know your opinions on some of the things we've shared, your experiences. It's a safe space. It's a sisterhood. Okay, talk about the sisterhood. Make sure you join it. All right, by following us across all social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Where else are we, Sha?
We everywhere.
We
man.
are everywhere. Just
We
search
everywhere.
To My Sisterhood. You will find us. Come and
Hello.
get plugged in. We are glowing and growing across your social media platforms. All right. You can also come and follow us individually.
That's
The
right.
lovely lady with the high puff on my right is at Renee Kapuku. Definitely go and follow her on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on the Twitter.
Come on
And you
now.
can also come and follow my personal glowing and growing journey on Instagram, YouTube. I might be starting TikTok soon. We'll see.
Come on.
But yeah, at CD Boating.
We love to see it. And of course, if you haven't already, sisters, please, those that missed out already on the live show, which is happening in T- 2 weeks now, baby.
Mad.
T-2 weeks by the time you're listening to this.
Yep.
Crazy. We're bringing together all the
Crazy.
sisters, and we are bringing together all the people and all the feels. And there will be some very special announcements. So make sure you are signed up to that mailing list. I am telling you, I'm begging
This
and
is not a
imploring, because some of the things we have under wraps right now, breaking news. The news is gonna break on your head top. What? So make sure you are signed up to the mailing list. The link will be down below in the YouTube description. And for those of you that are joining us on Spotify, Apple, it will be in the show notes. So make sure you are part of the sisterhood, lest you be embarrassed. Lest you be embarrassed.
Sign up. It just needs your email, tomysisters.com. We will not bombard you. We will just send you weekly glow and grow tips.
Absolutely.
That is it.
That's all. That's all we want.
That is all. Well, sisters, we hope that you have an amazing week. We hope that November is filled with blessings, joy, all of those things.
Let's
and
go.
we'll talk to you very, very soon. And as always, keep glowing and